Welcome back to Mr. Vaughn's classroom, where math is made easy. Before we get started, I'd like to ask you to please hit the subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, and engage with a comment below. Today we are looking at Unit 7, Quadratic Equations, Lesson 3, Solving Quadratic Equations by Reasoning. Today's learning goal says let's find solutions to quadratic equations. We have two learning targets today. As we go through the practice problems, keep these in mind. These are the skills they are going to expect you to have on the test. At the end of the lesson, we'll come back and we'll review these to ensure you've learned everything you needed to. Learning target number 1 says I can find solutions to quadratic equations by reasoning about the values that make the equation true. Learning target number 2 says I know that quadratic equations may have two solutions. Now we can begin the practice problems for Lesson 3. Practice problem number 1 wants us to consider the equation x squared equals 9. Number 1 wants us to show that 3, negative 3, square root of 9, and negative square root of 9 are each a solution to the equation. So, when we say that we are squaring something, we are saying we are multiplying it by itself. So first we have 3 squared, which is 3 times 3, and 3 times 3 equals 9. So that's true. Next, we try it with negative 3. Negative 3 squared means we have negative 3 times negative 3. When the signs are the same and we multiply, it becomes positive. So negative times a negative is a positive, and 3 times 3 is 9. Again, we've shown that's true. Next, we have square root of 9 times the square root of 9. Now, the definition of a square root is a number that when multiplied by itself gives us the number under the radical symbol. So if I take the square root of 9 and I multiply it by the square root of 9, that is going to give me 9. And we've shown that that one is true. And finally, we have negative square root of 9. Again, if I multiply a negative times a negative, it becomes positive. And square root of 9 times square root of 9 equals 9. So we have shown that 3, negative 3, square root of 9, and negative square root of 9 are all solutions to the quadratic equation x squared equals 9. Number 2 wants us to show that 9 and square root of 3 are not solutions to the equation. So if we have 9 squared, that is 9 times 9, which is 81. That is not 9, so we have shown that that is not a solution. The other one they gave us was the square root of 3 squared. The square root of 3 times the square root of 3 is going to be 3. 3 does not equal 9, so we've shown that this is not a solution to the quadratic equation x squared equals 9. If you have any questions about this practice problem, please leave a comment below and I'll get back to you with any help that I can offer. Practice problem number 2. Solve the quantity x minus 1 squared equals 16. Explain or show your reasoning. So if we have the quantity x minus 1 squared on the left and we have 16 on the right, the first thing we need to do is take the square root of both sides, because the opposite of squaring something is taking the square root. Now, when we do this, the square root of a square cancels out, and we have x minus 1 on the left. Now, on the right, anytime you take a square root, you are going to have a positive answer and a negative answer, because positive times positive equals positive, and negative times negative also equals positive. So x minus 1 could be 4, or x minus 1 could be negative 4, because 4 times 4 equals 16, and negative 4 times negative 4 also equals 16. So now that we have this, we're going to solve each one. The opposite of minus 1 is plus 1. We're going to do it to both sides to keep it equal. And we'll do this on both of them. Now we're left with x on the left, and 4 plus 1 equals 5 on the right. In the second choice, we're left with x on the left, and negative 4 plus 1 equals negative 3 on the right. So our solutions are that x equals 5, or that x equals negative 3. If you have any questions about this practice problem, please leave a comment below and I'll get back to you with any help that I can offer. Practice problem number 3. Here is one way to solve the equation 5 over 9 times y squared equals 5. Explain what is done in each step. So, first we can see they just bring down the original equation. Now, we notice that they've gone from 5 over 9 to just 5. And they've gone from 5 to 45. What they've done is they have multiplied both sides by 9. And the reason that you do this is to get rid of the fraction. On the next step, we can see that we've gone from 5y squared to y squared, and we've gone from 45 to 9. The way that they do this is by dividing both sides by 5. And finally, we can see that we've gone from y squared to y, and we've gone from 9 to 3 and negative 3. They've done this by taking the square root of both sides. And notice, when you take a square root, you get both a positive answer and a negative answer, because 3 times 3 equals 9, and negative 3 times negative 3 also equals 9. If you have any questions about this practice problem, please leave a comment below, and I'll get back to you with any help that I can offer. Practice problem number 4 is our last practice problem in this lesson. Diego and Jada are working together to solve the quadratic equation x minus 2 squared equals 100. Diego solves the equation by dividing each side of the equation by 2 and then adding 2 to each side. He writes x minus 2 equals 50 and x equals 52. Jada asks Diego why he divides each side by 2, and he says, I want to find a number that equals 100 when multiplied by itself. That number is half of 100. Number 1, what mistake is Diego making? The mistake that Diego is making is that he is dividing by 2 instead of taking the square root. Number 2, if you were Jada, what could you say to Diego to help him realize his mistake? So Diego is correct that he wants to find a number that equals 100 when multiplied by itself. But that is not half of 100. So what I would say is a number that is half of 100 is multiplied by 2 to equal 100. Not multiplied by itself. This means the opposite of multiplying a number by itself is taking the square root not dividing by 2. So in this case, what should have happened is that Diego should have taken the square root of both sides If he had done that, he would have gotten x minus 2 equals 10, or x minus 2 equals negative 10. Then he would have added 2 to both sides, in which case he would have ended up with the answers x equals 12 or x equals negative 8 instead of x equals 52. If you have any questions about this practice problem or any of the other practice problems we did in this lesson, please leave a comment below and I'll get back to you with any help that I can offer. Before we finish this lesson, let's go back and look at the learning targets again and ensure that you've learned everything you needed to before moving on to the next lesson. Reviewing the learning targets, we had 2 of them. Learning target number 1 says I can find solutions to quadratic equations by reasoning about the values that make the equation true. And learning target number 2 says I know that quadratic equations may have 2 solutions. What this means is that you understand when you're taking the square root to find the solutions, because a quadratic equation has that x squared term, taking a square root means you're looking for a number that when multiplied by itself will give you the number under the radical symbol. And we also know that when you're multiplying, if the signs are the same, they will result in a positive number. So, for example, if you were taking the square root of 16, your answers would be positive 4 and negative 4, because positive 4 times positive 4 equals 16, but so does negative 4 times negative 4. It also equals 16. So as you are solving quadratic equations moving forward, think about this when you're finding your answers and understanding how many answers you might have and which ones make sense in the context of what your answers are representing. I hope you found this video helpful. On the screen, you should see another video that YouTube believes will be helpful to you. I ask that you give this video a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and I look forward to seeing you in the next lesson.